Join the X Ministries as we celebrate 30 years of ministry, March the 8th through the 15th. That's 1 week of celebration with special guests, Dr. Elaine Schaus-Waller from Virginia Beach, Virginia.
He's a man and a woman who are saying, this is who we will become, that we don't know fully what we're going to become, but we do know that we vow that as we come together, something bigger than each of us individually could do can now happen. Oh, somebody better bless God.
And Dr. Noah Nicholson from Chicago, Illinois.
Somebody just take a step. Tell the devil, I'm walking over it. I'm walking out of it. I'm claiming new territory. I'm claiming new vision. I'm claiming new miracles. I'm claiming new power.
That's 1 full week of celebration. Our theme this year is looking at ministry through 2020 spiritual lens. Don't forget, March the 8th through the 15th as X Ministry celebrates 30 years of ministry.
All glory he demands it.
Welcome to the Words to Empower podcast, featuring Bishop Frank Stewart, pastor of the Acts Ministry in Conway and North Little Rock. And now, Pastor Stewart.
Welcome back to your Acts Ministry podcast. We're in the Potter's house. We've been talking about the Potter's house in Jeremiah chapter number 18. I want to read it again for you. The word which came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Arise, go down to the Potter's house, and there I will cause you to hear my words. Then I went down to the Potter's house, and there he was, making something at the wheel. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again into another vessel, as it seemed good to the potter to make. So we've been talking about the Potter's house. And the one thing I want to talk about, talking about the Potter's house, is that we see the potter making a vessel on the wheel. And the Bible says it is marred. It's messed up. It is the oxymoron of all oxymorons that imperfection happens in the hands of perfection. It is messed up in the hands of God. Now, when you look at that, many people say that's impossible. It's impossible for God to do that. Well, God didn't do it. This clay has a life of its own. It has a will of its own. And in its effort to resist the potter, it gets marred. Now, don't be confused when he says he makes another vessel. He doesn't throw the clay out. Once anything is marred in the hands of the potter, he has to make it more pliable. He may have to add water and reshape it and pack it back together and start all over again because of the clay. The clay had nothing to do with the potter. It's the clay. When there is a resisting to the will of God, the very purpose of God, the very desires of God, the reason why we came into the world. And when we resist like that, when we come against God like that, it is a very destructive behavior. It is full of disappointments and dissatisfactions because now I'm trying to be something that I'm not. Now I told you that there was a phenomenon that was happening where whales were just grounding themselves, thrusting themselves on land and dying because their purpose was not to live on land. Something had gone wrong. It's not their purpose. So if you get out of purpose, you'll die. If you get out of the ocean of your purpose, if you are a bird and you decide that you want to live underwater, you're going to die. You're going to die. That won't happen. If you are a fox and you decide that you wanna be able to do something different, then you can't live underwater because that's not your purpose. It is always going to be a struggle to survive. If you are a cow and you decide that you want to fly, you could jump off a mountain, but it is to your own destruction. Because purpose, whatever God has purposed to do, it means that there is an environment that we have to operate in if we want to be successful. And outside of that environment of our purpose, then you will be disappointed, you will be dissatisfied, and destruction ultimately will happen. Grace keeps us and helps us, but something will happen. Jeremiah 18, it was marred in the hands of the potter. I want to look at another man in the Bible that I think we can make it much more clear, and that is Saul. We know him as Paul because of what happened, but he started off being Saul. And Saul was fighting against God. Let me read that. That's in Acts chapter number 9. The Bible says, and Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Lord, went unto the high priest, and desired of him letters to Damascus to the synagogue, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound unto Jerusalem. And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. And he fell to the earth, and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. Now, I want to just stop right there. We know Paul's reply is going to be immediately, instantly going to say, Lord, what do you want me to do? But I want you to see that Paul had been fighting against God. And God says it's hard to fight against me. James Weldon Johnson, he wrote those famous lines. It is hard to box, or your arms are too short to box against God.
Stay tuned for more of Frank Stewart. And now for some special announcements.
Thanks for partnering with the Acts Ministries. We value your service and your donations. That's why we've made it easy to make contributions to support our ministry. Simply go to your web browser and click the search bar and type in actsministriesonline.org. Then click Donate Online. It's really that easy. For mobile giving, text the amount you wish to donate to 501-302-4242. That's Simple Give.
And now, more of Pastor Frank Stewart.
I want you to understand when God says to Paul, it's hard to kick against the pricks. He's not saying to Paul that I am damaging you, I am hurting you. He's not saying that. He is saying you are hurting yourself trying to fight against me. Hard to kick against the pricks. Now, let me give you a picture of what he meant when he said it's hard to kick against the pricks, because in our day and time, most of us have never seen what we call the pricks. We've never seen that. You had huge animals that were extremely strong, animals that weighed more than a ton. You had oxen and you had cattle, and they just a brute force that an ox has. If he pushed up against almost any kind of fence, he could push it over because of his strength. If he became startled or something happened and he ran against the fence, he could tear it down. even if it was not intentional, because he just had that kind of strength. They used oxen to plow with because they were so strong. So in order to keep the ox in a fence, to keep them from just straying away or being destroyed or being eaten by wild animals, they would put up a fence that they knew could not keep the ox in. But what they would do is put pricks on the fence. What do you mean, pricks? That would be sharp sticks on the fence. So if you put a sharp stick on the fence, and when the oxen or the ox came to push the fence over, he would push into one of these sharp sticks or pricks, and it would when he would hit it with his body, it would cut him or push into his skin, and he would stop, because the more he pushed, the more it would hurt. And in order for him not to hurt himself, he would stop pushing. You got to see that. You got to see how ingenious this was, that was used by farmers and ranchers, because they couldn't build a fence strong enough unless they had walls. They had time to do that. But any fence with pricks on it, the cattle, if he tried to ram it or push it down, the more he pushed, the more it hurt him. So he would start pushing. And I'm saying all of that is because I believe that many of us in life, we're like Paul. We're pushing up against something that is against the will of God. It's outside of the environment that God wants us to be in. Because the environment that he's placed us in is the environment that is going to be more conducive to our purpose. So we push up against it. We push up against it. And the more we push up against it, the more it hurts us. And you see people today. And they are in pain. They are in painful relationships. They're in painful situations because of pushing up against the pricks. We're injuring ourselves. But of course, when we do that, we have to have a scapegoat. And of course, that's always going to be God. We're going to always say, God did it to me. And God is saying to Paul, I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself. You ran up against me. It's hard for you to fight against me. Now, God says, really, God did us a favor, because you don't want to push up against God, because that is sudden destruction. So what happens is that God puts something that is painful or hurtful to keep us from destroying ourselves. See, the pricks were never designed to destroy the ox or the oxen. It wasn't designed to kill him. It was designed to keep him in the place where he needed to be for his own safety. Never designed to kill him. It was just a little cut. It wasn't put there to destroy him. But there are some that some of us, we continue to push against the thing that is destroying us. We are inflicting pain upon ourselves by our own stubbornness. Now, when you think about that, we think of King Saul in the Old Testament, not Apostle Paul here, but in the Old Testament. It is King Saul that kept on pushing against God. What do you mean pushing against God? How can you do that? Well, pushing against the will of God, pushing against what God said, being disobedient, being stubborn, pushing against what is right. And when you do that, you find yourself outside of the purpose of God. Purpose of God. And when you're outside of the purpose of God, then destruction is going to happen. Because an ox or cattle out in the forest on their own is in danger. They're in danger from the wolves. Remember what the Bible says, that there were wolves. And that if the shepherd didn't keep up with the sheep, the wolves would devour them, destroy them. Not just wolves, there are lions and there are bears. So the fence actually is protection, but they see it as a restriction. I want you to think about that. Think about that. What is happening in your life that is really for your protection that you see as a restriction? And you're pushing up against it is causing you to be damaged, to be hurt. And it's your own doing. It is what you're doing to yourself. It is what is going on with you. So when we look at that, and here's Paul, immediately, what Paul does, it says, what would you have me to do? Immediately, Paul started pushing up against the pricks. Immediately, he stopped. The reason why sometimes we don't have the peace we need, the joy we need, the happiness that we need is because we are pushing against the pricks, pushing against those things that God has told us we shouldn't fight against. I want you to hear that, brothers and sisters, because there is an environment that has an atmosphere that will cause your purpose to be realized. But if you're not in the right environment, which has a certain atmosphere, then you'll never see or reach purpose. I want you to stay tuned as we go a little deeper into this study, and I hope that God is opening us up to those things in our lives that are very painful, and sometimes they're painful because of our behavior.
For mobile giving, text the amount you wish to donate to 501-302-4242.
The Acts Church in North Little Rock is located at 1224 Franklin Street. Morning Glory begins at 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings. Sunday school begins at 8:30 a.m. And for a powerful word, join us at 9:30 a.m. for our morning worship service. Bible study is each Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. At our Conway location, Morning Glory begins at 10 a.m. Sunday school begins at 10:30 a.m. Worship service begins at 11:30 a.m. On Thursday, our Bible class begins at 6:30 p.m. For more information, go to actsministriesonline.org or give us a call at 501-329-2055.
Thank you for tuning in to the Acts Ministry Podcast. The Acts Church is located at 1423 England Street in Conway and 1224 Franklin Street in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Tune in each day to hear an inspiring word from Pastor Frank Stewart.